Inner child is a term that we are all familiar with, but exactly is it? What exactly is the inner child? Your inner child is your inner child holds, I think it's more holds the root of energy in your human life. It carries the energy of your soul in the purest sense, in the purest form, and is the starting point of your personality. Also, your inner child is where your sense of pure joy is. Is where you can find your true essence. You know, is where your true spirit resides. It has the energy of your authentic self. That's why we normally say, when we're trying to figure out what we are passionate about, what are the things that we like, we are normally recommended to go back to our childlike memories, to go back to our childhood and connect with that playfulness and that joyfulness, because it is where you can find what lights you up. It holds the essence of everything that lights you up, because the energy is so pure, is so unfiltered. That is the easiest way to connect with what you are passionate about, with your true skills, your true gifts, your strength, without the filter of the conditioning and the programming of society and culture and the way we were brought up. It holds itself, the inner child holds itself in our childhood memories, and obviously depending on your early childhood experiences, you carry those experiences with you to your adulthood. Thing is, we all have a place of vulnerability. What do I mean by that? We all have a part of ourselves that we tend to hide because, again, we were raised with the programming that we need to be strong, that we need to compete with other people to succeed, or that we need to fight within the cultural and societal rules to be heard. Because as children, we didn't have a say. We didn't have a choice or the possibility to explain ourselves and to be understood. In my generation and the generations before us, children were to be seen, not heard. Have you ever heard that expression? We're not expected to ask questions. We're not expected to try and have a curious conversation because we were children. You know, there was this status that we were below. You do as I say, that's it. And so, yeah, most of us didn't have that choice or the possibility to express ourselves, to explain ourselves, to have a voice, to be heard, to be understood. And so we hid that part of ourselves, and it became our place of vulnerability, because that was the norm, right? But what this means is from very early on, we kind of forced ourselves to fit in or to fight for a place in life in order to feel approved or validated or accepted or loved. First by our parents or our carers, then by our school peers and teachers, then co-workers, then friends, then partners and extended family, and the list goes on. So we kind of hit our or forgot our true essence, who we were when we were children and innocent with that pure energy, to force ourselves to cope with our realities, either fitting in or fighting for a place in life. And that's when we learn to repress our true desires, our deepest soul yearnings. We learn to silence them. We hid them. We dismiss them. We learn to not be open about those desires or our deepest fears because, you guessed it, that means being vulnerable. And no one likes to be vulnerable because vulnerability is perceived as not being safe. Because if we are vulnerable, people will mock us, will take advantage of us, will hurt us. So we learn to hide our desires, to hide our fears, so other people don't use that information against us. And so, as we go through life trying really hard to forget who we were, our souls will guide us towards the path of remembering. Our soul will bring us experiences that will awaken emotional and challenging times, times that hold the memory of those hidden, those suppressed, those dismissed soul yearnings, which in a sense, they are the treasures of our inner child. But we force ourselves to put that inside a treasure box with the chain and the lock, and we threw out the key. So we don't have to look into those memories. But our soul will always guide us towards those experiences. Not towards those experiences, but towards those memories. Bringing up experiences and challenges and people that will help us remember. Because when it's time for you to return to your truth, your soul will call in experiences, coincidence, old memories to the surface, where you will be called to come back home to yourself. You'll be called to feel the emotions of vulnerability that you have forgotten or that you forced yourself to forget. You will be called to moments of awakening throughout your life. And those moments of awakening will come over and over and over again until you remember. And I'm not going to lie, of course, those moments will be perceived as hard times. And it will feel very uncomfortable. and very disruptive. And you will resist going to that place of vulnerability. You will. You will feel that child archetype coming to the surface. And the child archetype feels that it's not fair. Life is not fair. That you want to be heard. Being this child archetype, we kind of fell as well into the victim archetype, where we feel like everyone is against us. You know, that we project the blame. Have you ever, like, if you had siblings, have you ever, like, when you were playing as a child and one of you playing broke a glass or, I don't know, a jar or something, and then mom comes along, who did this? And you say, it was not me, it was her. It was you, but you say it was her or the dog. It was never your fault because you are so scared of the consequences. You are so scared of being put in the naughty step. You are so scared that you disappoint your parents. So we fall into this child archetype whenever we perceive the experiences that we're going through as being so hard. And they feel very uncomfortable. They feel very disruptive because they are not safe. They take away our safety. They take away our comfort zone. And we resist. And by resisting, the child archetype comes up. And that's when we start projecting the blame. That's when we start feeling that the situation is not fair. Right? So that's a good way. Our behavior and how we feel in our bodies tell us a lot about how we feel deep inside and what are the patterns and and cycles of behavior and of the things that trigger us, the fears that trigger us. Because as in the child archetype, our biggest fear is to be alone, to feel rejected, not loved. So yeah, when we are in that place of vulnerability that we try to forget, but the soul is bringing all these memories and experiences for us to remember, every time we go back there, we feel the same huge fear of feeling rejected and not loved. And that's why we resist. Right? And then when we feel that we're going back to that place of sadness, of frustration, of fear, of anger, of not being able to express yourself, just like it happened when you were a little child and you had to find ways of coping with that, you know, the biggest way that you found it was possible to cope with that reality was to forget those painful memories and frustrations. But in reality, those moments are gifts in disguise. That's how I see them. Those moments that bring that fear, that bring those frustrations, that anger, those rememberings, no matter how uncomfortable they are actual gifts in disguise because they hold the key to that treasure chest where you locked your memories inside and you threw away the key. That is the key. And that key is like a portal for your own power, where your soul resides, is where you can claim your power back. And that's when vulnerability will be alchemized into power, because your inner child will transform from the victim child to a powerful, self-confident being. It has been proven scientifically, actually, that most of us cannot remember traumatic experiences because as children, sorry, as children, we had the capacity to bury some memories, to find it bearable, to, just carry on with our lives. And although they are forgotten on a conscious level, these memories, these traumas are still very well stored in the body. And so every time those painful memories are triggered, they activate behaviors that impact our life and our personality. What I said previously, that these memories and the way our body responds have clues of how we truly feel and about the triggers that we have and patterns of behavior. That's what I mean. Every time that these memories are triggered, they activate behaviors that impact our life and our personality. And a good way to see that is when something happens, your first reaction to the experience, to the words, to the person, whatever circumstance it is, your first reaction is the clue of the trigger. If you tend to shout, to explode, to be ready for a fight, or if you retract and you don't say a thing, like your first reaction, the impulsive one, is the one that comes from your ego, and it has the clue there of what triggers you as an ego perspective. Because emotionally intelligent people tend to try and respond rather than react. Those that are more awakened, or I wouldn't say awakened, but more aware on a psychological level, on a spiritual level, they try not to take action when the emotions are high. They tend to give themselves space to process what's happening and then respond rather than react. But even with that awareness, we all have our own triggers, and sometimes it's impossible not to react. It's impossible not be impulsive. And so knowing how we reacted straight away, having that awareness later, will allow us to work on what is the message there, what is the invitation there to be healed. That's why I say that when we decide to explore and become conscious of our vulnerabilities, we are opening an opportunity to heal ourselves, to transform the pain into power. Because, our triggers, our reactive behaviors and thoughts, they are not bad. They are just create protective parts of ourselves that were created to help us cope with our reality. But because our reality now is so different from what is actually being triggered, and if it's not healed, or at least if we don't have that awareness, they are still influencing our reactions today, is really important to try and become curious and conscious of those behaviors and those triggers and those vulnerabilities. Yeah, because your inner child is trying to tell you something. And not all pain is bad. Actually, as I said, it can be alchemized into power. And is a way of, by working on ourselves and being curious about ourselves, is a way of transforming the pain that we endured into power, into something good, something that can help us become a better human being, and to help the world become a better place than when we arrived. But I wanted to tell you that your inner child doesn't only store traumatic pain. Please don't believe that your inner child is all about pain. It's not. It also carries your deepest dreams, your soul gifts, your true desires in life, and your genuine sense of joy. That sense of joy as a being, not as having, but as a being. Your most pure soul essence. That's the beauty of your inner child. So going back to the question of, can the wounded inner child be healed? Yes, my answer is yes. It is possible to heal your wounded inner child. But as a word of advice, I have to say this. If you have gone through trauma, such as childhood abuse or rape, or another kind of very intense trauma, it is always recommended to seek professional help from a therapist. Don't try to do the inner child work by yourself, because it can awaken memories that are very traumatic, and you need the support of someone that is professional and knows what they are doing, and that can guide you to heal. Yeah, inner child work is very, very powerful. And for minor traumas, minor pains, and for curiosity, that's I totally recommend doing it. But if it's immense traumatic experience, like I had with childhood abuse, it's really important to seek professional help. Don't attempt to do it by yourself. Okay? So why is it important to heal and free your inner child? Well, because otherwise you will not be able to value yourself for who you truly are. Remember, your inner child holds the energy of your pure essence, of your authentic self. By not freeing your inner child, not healing your inner child, you are not valuing who you are at a soul level, who you are in your authenticity. You'll always diminish yourself. You'll always listen to other people's opinions about you, and you will always believe those opinions. You always believe that no, doesn't matter what other people say about you, good and bad, you always believe them over what you think about yourself. You always struggle to make decisions. You will not be able to create healthy boundaries, or saying yes when we want to say no, allowing people to take advantage of you or to drain you, your energy, your time. And you will struggle to live on your spiritual path because you'll be too much in your reaction, living in the triggers, right? And when you repeat the same mistakes, when you aren't able to see the opportunities, to notice the opportunities around you, when you don't believe in yourself, or when your behavior is standing in your way of living a more joyful life or a more successful life, you will struggle to enjoy life. You will struggle to live in flow with your soul's path and to be able to love yourself fully for who you truly are, with everything that you are, the good and the perceived bad, right? Remember that your true nature is not lacking. It's just a part of you that is wanting to be welcomed back. It's just a part of you that wants to be acknowledged and needs nurturing, needs love. Remember the child archetype. Its biggest fear is to not be loved. Your wounded child needs nurturing. Your true nature, if it's being hidden and dismissed and suppressed, needs that love. Needs you to parent yourself the way you wanted to be parented when you were a child. But now you are an adult. You have the opportunity to parent yourself. Your task is to give yourself every opportunity to get back to your soul essence, right? Again, going back to what lights you up, to your passions. And even those memories that are uncomfortable, they are important to go back to as well, because getting to know your inner child with self-compassion makes a huge difference in your healing journey. A huge difference. But with self-compassion, always, 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 always. Healing, doing self-healing is always about no judgment, no blame, and a lot of self-compassion.